Hey guys.
Hey.
We wanted to bring some attention to a case that is happening very locally to us and one that was actually brought to Morgan.
Yes, I had a patient come up to me at work the other day and was just talking about it and was just trying to get the word out and spread the information. And I was like, bestie, you happen to just be talking to the right girl.
You hit the jackpot here, babe.
Because I can do that for you.
100%. So we wanted to bring that case to you guys because it's literally appalling and it brings so much light and attention to something that has been needing to be talked about and had something done about it for a long time, and we've all been saying it, but it's time to do it. And this actually happens way more often than you would think. I feel like I hear stories of it every single day. So Morgan, let's talk about Lester Isbel.
On February 6, 2025, 74-year-old Elijah Lester Isbel was in Madisonville, Monroe County, Tennessee, when, according to his daughter, Wendy Duncan, he began showing signs of a medical emergency, such as heightened blood pressure, heart rate, and difficulty communicating with others. Especially considering the fact that he was suffering from a long list of medical conditions, including dementia, and was trying to drive off in his car, the family decided to call 911 for emergency medical help. Once the ambulance arrived, Lester, who, according to his daughter Wendy, was a kind and loving man and was a preacher for almost 40 years, became uncooperative, refusing to get into the ambulance and receive medical treatment, being incredibly confused and becoming more and more irritable, like many that suffer from dementia. The EMS team called for backup with the Madisonville Police Department. Once officers arrived, they were told from both the family and EMS about his conditions, and they asked him, as seen on body cam footage, some questions to check his lucidity. Here is the conversation. Officer, what day is it? Lester, it's 1948, ain't it? Officer, 1948, who's the president? Lester, George Washington. Officer, George Washington, what month is it? Lester, I don't even know what year it is.
Even still, officers arrested Lester Isbel for disorderly conduct and drove off with him in the back of their cruiser. His family believed that he was being taken to the hospital, but instead he was taken straight to the Monroe County Jail and placed in a cell. Hours later, Lester would be found unresponsive and finally rushed to Blunt Memorial Hospital, where he later died of a heart attack. At which point, his daughter, Wendy, immediately requested the jail and body cam footage where the horrifying events of the last hours of her father's life emerged. As shown in the footage, Lester's speech is very obviously slurred and he is confused, continually trying to get into his vehicle despite officers telling him not to, which made a confused Lester become even more upset. He then begins making threats to the officers, saying that they would need an ambulance if they tried to arrest him, and made mention that he had a shotgun in his car that he was allegedly reaching for, at which point officers stopped him and put Lester into their patrol car. Let me just preface this too. This man had no power over these officers, just so we're all clear here. It's not like he had the gun in his hand, just the alleged gun in his hand.
He's literally a pappy.
Yep, and he's very confused and disoriented, so that's all you need to know here. His daughter Wendy and her husband were also recording on their own devices once they arrived, where Lester can be heard refusing to leave with her or the medical services. Wendy told officers that she had power of attorney over her father, which EMS said did not work in this situation, quote, because he was lucid. Cool, so just so we're all clear, George Washington is the president.
And it's 1948.
And it's 1948.
And also, even if he's lucid,
George
does that
Washington
even
wasn't the
matter?
president in
She's power of
1998.
attorney. He's not lucid, but
No, it doesn't. I don't think it does. Which, whatever. So to try and handle the situation herself, that was clearly getting out of hand. Allegedly, she was made to sign an AMA form, which is against medical advice, for refusing medical care from EMS for her father.
However, Wendy said that she was provided no documentation at the scene, which is what resulted in him being placed under arrest and taken to the Justice Center at 1:15 p.m., where he was escorted to a cell, but became more and more uncooperative, began shouting and falling in his cell. In response to this, correction staff placed Lester in a restraint chair, quote, with medical staff nearby, allegedly, at 1:50 p.m. in only his underwear and a t-shirt, before also placing a hood known as a spit mask on his head to prevent him from spitting on staff at 4 p.m. And it's dead ass just a bag on the person's head.
Yeah, like a mesh bag.
Like
a bag.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not a spit mask. It's not a.
It
it's
looks
not
like something
It's
from-
not a medical mask.
No.
It is a literal. It's something out
a
of
bag.
like a prisoner of war.
Yeah.
Like a torture tactic.
It looks like something you would see in like a movie where they're literally like torturing people.
Yeah. So he has this bag on his head and he is left alone in the cell for 2 hours until 5:45 p.m. when a nurse came to take his vitals before leaving once again. After 2.5 hours, he was checked on once again at 8 p.m. before being left alone for another 3 hours, still restrained and with the bag over his head. Then at 11:07 p.m., the camera footage shows Lester stop moving and a corrections officer entering the room almost 3 minutes later, at which point officers and medical staff began removing the restraints and hood before performing life-saving measures, including CPR. Lester was then rushed to the hospital at 11:45 p.m., where he passed away a short time later.
Oh my gosh. According to the reporting from WVLT, Monroe County Sheriff Tommy Jones said, quote, "I wish what had happened is there was a committal done and that he was taken to the hospital instead of the jail. That didn't happen. I wish it had. Once he got here, all my staff, this is what upset me with it. They should have done that assessment and transported him to the hospital and instead of keeping him here as long as he had stayed." Continuing on in a different quote saying, "According to the autopsy, Mr. Isbel had a heart condition and you know if he was in the jail, if he's at home, if he is in hospice, would it have made a difference as far as the death? I don't know that nobody knows that," end quote. However, what he failed to include in this quote was that the autopsy also showed that Lester suffered from fractured ribs and several contusions and abrasions, according to News Channel 9 Chattanooga. Finishing up with Tommy Jones saying, quote, "There were policy violations in the jail and I see what the public sees when they see this chair. They see how Mr. Isbel was sitting in it and I don't like it no more than anyone else," end quote. And he supports 100% that there should be an investigation into Lester's death. Then DA Hatchett commented on the matter, saying that there are other issues that have been raised and uncovered during this investigation into his death, including the fact that records show that Isbel had been arrested by the Monroe County Sheriff's Office just 8 months prior to his death in May of 2024 for a quote-unquote DUI, which was dismissed by the courts in July of 2024 because there was no probable cause to arrest Isbel, with Hatchett adding that Isbel displayed many of the same symptoms that he showed on that footage while being restrained during that 2024 arrest.
As of now, 3 of the deputies are now placed on unpaid suspension for violating jail policy, with 1 other deputy being fired and 2 more resigning. They have released the footage to the public and it is absolutely heartbreaking and infuriating, and just goes to show you how very little to no training is done in these departments that teach officers how to properly handle those going through mental and medical crisis while in their custody, especially dementia, Alzheimer's. I mean, you have this man bagged
over
and
his
restrained
head.
for 9.5 hours.
Well, I just don't know how the fuck we got from the fact that we're calling because he's clearly in the middle of a medical emergency to we're arresting him when his daughter says that I thought they were just taking him to the hospital.
Yeah.
And just needed more force behind it.
I would love to know if the same cops for the DUI were the same, like...
See, that's what I'm really interested in. And I find it really interesting that those
because they could have been reprimanded and now they have him again and they're pissed off.
So we have 3 that are on probation and then we have 2 that are gone. 1 fired, 1 resigned. And then we have someone else that's resigned, a third person, maybe just like because they didn't say it was an officer. Yeah. So who were all these people? Who was involved in the first arrest? Who was involved in this current arrest? And the question still remains, how did we get here? Was he really causing that big of a public disturbance when the whole point of anyone being called in the first place, calling 911, which we are supposed to be able to trust to, be able to help us in whatever way that we need, and not arresting a 73-year-old man who is struggling with dementia and going through a mental and a medical crisis all at once, and his family's calling you for help? How did we get here?
I have no idea. I'm actually speechless about the entire
statements
situation.
of being like, well, he would have died either way.
That's fucked up.
That is insane. That is insane. What are you talking about?
Right.
What are you talking about? If you would have taken him to the hospital prior, then this would have been fine.
Anybody that is bagged and restrained for 9.5 hours I also probably would have went into cardiac arrest.
Yes. Like, how much stress do you think that he's under at that point? His heart can't handle that.
At that point, regardless of the situation, you guys initiated that natural causes.
Yeah, the way that the natural causes were initiated
by
was by this entire situation. And guess who did it? Madisonville.
Terrible.
So,
Wendy, if you ever hear this, we're really sorry that this happened to your daddy, and we hope that
you get some justice in all this, because if anything, I hope something good comes of it as well, where we, just like the Denise Amber Lee situation, where they go around and they've created this entire foundation in her name to be able to teach and educate departments.
Yeah.
There needs to be some change. Period. End of story. Thanks, guys, for letting us pop in and give you guys this horribly sad case, but we think that it deserves a lot more limelight than it's getting.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That there's a larger thing going on here.
And if there is any updates, we will keep you posted.
We'll let you know. Love you guys so much.
Love you. Bye.
Talk to you soon.